Class 9 of the core theory classes. And this one, we're going to be covering one of the most important things in WordPress and why I even suggest people use WordPress and specifically Bricks, to be very honest, dynamic data. See, dynamic data is what separates a great site from just a meh, it's a site. What is dynamic data? What is it for? What does it do? That's what this video is going to cover, all right? I am going to be covering it in a very light way, moving along, just giving you an idea. So the exact specifics, the exact wording, I may fudge on a little just to keep things simple so you can wrap your head around it the first time. Once you've got it, we're going to do lots of videos on this much more in detail. But first, you got to understand what it is and what it does, all right? So dynamic data simply means that the data changes. See, if I come in here, I have a bunch of cards from our last class, and these were supposed to be employees. So let's give them names, okay? Frank Butler and I don't know, Adam Sandler and John Peacock. All right. People's names. That's great. So what the issue is that it takes time to type all these out, and then you've got a style, and then you got to do all these things, and it's kind of a pain. So this is where dynamic data comes in. Instead of actually writing everything out to the page, we can save it in the database. Now, everything in Bricks is saved in the database. And if you were to look at it in a spreadsheet, and I've made this very overtly simplified spreadsheet, it looks something along the lines of this. You have a post type, which, you know, for your blog would be post. If it were a page, it would literally say page, you know, and then it would give it an ID number that it would just assign. And you would have, you know, your page title. Maybe that's your home page. I don't know. And then your content, you know, this is on my page. And your post time, you know, it saves some core things. And those things are your core data that each post, no matter what the post type is, has. So if I make a new post type and I call it employees, okay, it'll give the number, obviously. And then the post title, you know, it gets a little weird. Like, well, what do you use the post title for? But again, keeping in mind that, you know, WordPress was built to be a content management system, it needed to do a few things. Originally, these were all blog posts. So typically for me, I would actually use the person's name there. So, you know, Frank. And, you know, for the content, I actually probably wouldn't add content here, and the post time would just be whenever it was posted, okay? So that would be a custom post type. So you have your kind of built-in post types, your post, your page, you know, Bricks. Actually, if you go look in Bricks here, and I come under my palette, I go to post types, I can see that templates are a custom post type. Bricks has added that to the core of WordPress, okay? What if you wanted to add something that isn't on these core things? Like maybe in one of your posts, you want to have something like, I don't know, city, because you want to know which city the author that wrote that post on your blog is from, and it would say Vancouver, okay? So that is a meta field. It's you've tacked it on to what is the core things, and that'll come up later on. But the important thing to note is you have some core things that are built into every post type even if it's a custom post type. And then you have meta fields that you add on top of that. Okay. So let's go ahead and see this in action. And I know right now this is a little confusing, but it's really not too bad. So here you're going to see exactly how we create a custom post type to begin with. Okay. So I have this employee card that I need to fill in. So let's do that. Let's have some custom employees. Okay. First thing we're going to do is go add a post type, and we will add the new post type, and we will call it employees. Singular is employee. Just let it generate its own post type key. Again, it'll typically be your lowercase version of your singular name. And for right now, that's kind of all we need to do. Although, yeah, let's go ahead and actually save that and just see what happens already. So now you'll see that there's an employees. And if I go to add a new employee, this kind of starts looking like the whole Gutenberg thing, because it is the Gutenberg thing. But truthfully, in this case, we don't really want that. We just want it to be kind of like a database type. So what I'm going to do is go back under here, under the post type, under my advanced thing, and I'm going to turn off the editor, and that's the Gutenberg editor. And we don't actually need a featured image, and the custom fields one, So there you go. Now, when I go to employees, let me just save those changes. Now, if I go to employees and I go add a new employee, now you can really see what's going on here. Here is our page title, because everything has a page title, as we had discussed here. You can see, okay, it's asking for, it's post title, I should say. And then we turned off the post content for this one, which was the editor. And then the time things, they all figure themselves out. Now it's saying custom fields, and I could add just one custom field to this, which you may want to do. It's not my chosen way to do it. So like I was saying, typically I would go under my post types. Let me just go ahead and edit that. And what I'll do is I will actually turn off custom fields. And now you will see, if I go to employees and add a new employee, all I get is post title. Why? Because that's all I'm really using. Now, over here, you can see that it will do times and stuff like that when I save it automatically, and it knows who the author is and all those other things that you may want to tap into later on. That's the whole point of using WordPress, is that it has all those things pre-built in. Problem is, I'm going to need more than employee name, right? And this is where adding these meta fields come in, okay? So let's go ahead. Let me just go back here, and let's go back into that. And this time, instead of the post type, and in fact, I can actually come in here, and when I click save, it's going to say, hey, do you want to add fields to this? Or do you want to link a bunch of field groups that are already existing? Now, field groups are just a bunch of fields that you have. In this case, let's go and do it manually, and you can kind of see what it is I'm doing. I'm going to create a field group. It's just a bunch of meta fields that I want, all right? Now, we already have the name because we're going to use post title for that, for the person's name. So let's do some other things. Let's do, we'll do a text area, and that will be our information. And we can just press tab and it'll automatically give you a lowercase. And if it had been 2 words, let's say I had called it employee information, which is a horrible database building, but why not? If I press tab, you'll see that it creates a URL friendly, or I should say a web friendly name for it, so that it it is not broken up text. It's one solid string name, and that's how you can refer to it. So, but in this case, let's just revert that back to, actually, screw it. Let's keep it as that, because it's a horrible name. Now, up here, we're going to need a field group, and this is just employees field, or fields. Okay. And so we have that employee information. Let's see, what else do we need? Oh, you know what we could do? Let's have a number, and that number will be employee age. Now, the field label will be the label that's put on the form when the person adds it, and the field name is the actual, where the code calls it up. So in other words, these two aren't actually, I could change this label to say, how old is this dude? All right. And we'll go ahead and save that. And now when I go in under employees and I go add a new employee, oh, see, I did forget one thing there. I have that field groups, but what I never did was connected that group of fields to the actual post type. So here it's saying, well, if post type is equal to post, nope, we need if post type is equal to employees. So there you go. There's the employee, and we'll click Save Changes. And now when I go to, pardon me here, and now when I go to employees and add a new employee, now I've got my two questions. I've got the guy's name. Okay, so John Carpenter, and oops, let me just fix that. And see, if you make a mistake and it creates the single URL from the title, you can just go ahead and delete it, click OK, and it'll redo it from your change. This is all about John Carpenter, yada yada yada. Okay. Doesn't really matter. There's some text in there, and John Carpenter's 45, and we're going to publish that. And I'll tell you what, let's add one more new employee, and that's Kevin Bacon. This dude is an actor from the 80s. I wasn't a fan. Whatever. All right. And I don't know how old that dude is. He's probably 53, let's say. So the point is, now if I go to all employees, I can see that these are just records. It's no different than this spreadsheet, than me having come in here and I got put in the employee thing, and it created a post ID automatically, which is just giving a unique number so that WordPress knows how to access exactly that record. And then, the person's name, in this case, it was Kevin Bacon. Okay. So that's all that's happening here. And then we've added a couple of meta fields. So we've gone back to our last lessons page, and we're going to go ahead and take away all those other cards, because we really don't need them. And now we have our card, and I'll tell you what, we actually don't need this, but one thing we do need is an age. And so let's go ahead and we will insert basic text, and for the basic text, we're going to call that age, just to keep things straight, and remembering our Ben naming, just like we did in the last one. It's employee underscore age, so that we have a class that we can stylize this with. So here we are, we have a place to put the person's age. So let's actually say age, and we'll just leave that blank for now. That's it. We're ready to now auto-fill in from all that stuff that we have. So all we have to do is to go ahead and turn this into a query loop, which means it's just going to take a query and loop through it over and over again based on what the query is. Again, I'm oversimplifying. We'll do videos on this. But the point is that there are records there that I want to show. I want to show a post type, or a post, I should say. But what kind of post type? Well, it's not a post. See, the type isn't in here at all. Why is that? Because I haven't refreshed the browser. See, I created those things before this page loaded. So now I have to refresh the browser, and that will have all this stuff behind that you'll see in a second. So now when I click query and I go post, because it's a post, as opposed to terms and users. So this is a post, and the post type is employee. And you see what happens here. All of a sudden, it's automatically filling. Now, I can order by the date that it went in or whatever. So if I order it by title, which in our case we're using as the person's name, this will become an alphabetical list. And again, we're not going to go into too many details here. I'm just going to hook this thing up. So we're just going to leave everything basically how it sits. We'll click save. And now if I view this on the preview page, let's go ahead and do that. And you're going to see the same guy twice. What's going on here? Well, so don't forget that we still have this as handwritten in here with this thing. We have it saying Frank Butler. So all it's doing is repeating. It's looping through, but it's looping through the same data. We actually have to use the dynamic data that we have. So we're going to take out the name that we had written in, and we're going to go in and we're going to say post title, which again was the person's name, right? And for age, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go under age. We're going to give it a space. Now, this is here is just text, but now we're going to go in and we're going to go under ACF because these are meta fields. You can see what all the post fields are by default. But these are all meta fields. And remember, we gave it a title of how old is this dude? So, but while that was the title that we just saw, you can see that the actual code is the name that it was given in ACF. So there you go. Now we've got the guy's name, his thing, and his age. And now all we have to do is go in and we're going to give it the info. And I wanted to show you that. I just typed in info because it gets to be a real drag, and they've done a good job updating this. Now it's easier to find, I didn't have to search through all of the different available dynamic data. So I can just go ahead and I can say, okay, employee information. Now, what if instead of this age here, let's go ahead and duplicate this. And we will call this, I don't know, date posted. Okay. And this is just, when it was posted. Now, we never created that info. Remember, we just didn't. So we'll go date created. And what we'll do is we will go into some of the presets that are there, which in this case, is the post date. So I want to know what date was this posted on? And there it is. Look at that. Now, again, I'm not going to go into detail. You can format that and you can do all that, and that's great. I want to show you one other thing. While that is dynamic data in terms of using custom post types, dynamic data comes in other ways too. It could be something submitted by a form or even in the URL. So I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and we're going to put in a heading up here. And of course, it goes to the bottom, but that's all right. We'll drag it up here and we want this to be company name. So if I go under here and I type in URL, you will see that there is one called URL parameter. Now this is given to you by Bricks, and it just says URL underscore parameter in parentheses. But what we can do is we could tell it, hey, okay, you're going to look in the URL. We want you to look for something called company. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to inject the company's name into this page. And I can prove it because what I'll do is I'll call that and I will call it co. Okay? So we'll save that. And now we will go ahead and view that on the front page. So there we are. We're looking at it on the home page and it says co because we haven't injected anything in. Once again, dynamic data. So let's go ahead and give it that variable, that company equals, and let's call it, I don't know, dynamic. And there you go, dynamic co. You understand what's happening here? Or if I wanted to change it to dynamics with 3 X's, it's dynamics. I'm passing in that variable. And that's all that dynamic data means. It means taking data from somewhere else that maybe is getting updated or it's being stored in a database and using it on your page. It's the key to unlocking everything that Bricks can do. If you're typing something in repetitively on a page, you're doing it wrong. But don't worry, because a whole lot of my videos are going to be geared towards this, especially as we look forward to now taking these beginner lessons that we've covered and actually creating things with value. Dynamic data is the key. Doesn't matter that you can make something look good. You want to see a site that looks bloody horrible? Go to Craigslist. Hell, even Amazon doesn't look very good. But these are some of the busiest sites on the internet. So that's it. Done preaching about dynamic data. I look forward to the next round of classes, which will be giving a whole lot more detail and actually teaching you now beyond just the theory. Let's actually build some stuff now. All right, great. Have a great day. Bye now.